And we are live.
We
And
are
I'm no
live.
longer
Hey, everybody.
in Florida, which is kind of okay. I kind of miss Florida. How are you doing?
Um, in Alabama. Wish I was in
Well,
Florida. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I kind of wish I'd go to Florida when I go into somebody's funeral or some other thing. But it was nice to pay respects to my aunt. So those of you who don't know, my aunt passed away last week. This week, sorry, she passed away on Monday. I went
Mm-hmm.
down to visit her when she was in hospice. So it was nice seeing her for the last time. It was all the trimmings, and unfortunately she is no longer with us. But the pain's gone, so she's good. Anyway, but I did do a couple of things. I made and this mic is a little too hot probably. I actually made a video while I was down there, and
Mm-hmm.
I walked around a Veterans Memorial Park, and had a lot of still some interesting cool stuff like helicopter and Veterans Memorial and stuff, and so it's pretty cool. Um, and of course we had to go to Walmart because Walmart's everywhere in Florida. We have it here. Yeah.
I saw you post about some robot roaming the aisles.
Oh, yeah. That's Marty, and my phone died. Otherwise, I would have shown it here. But so we have a. If you look on my Facebook, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
not Meta. Meta is the name of the company, but
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is the name of the app. Just 1 second. I need to charge my phone here. The Yeah, there's a robot in a Stop and Shop. Okay, so I normally don't go to Stop and Shop. My
Mm-hmm.
grocery store of choice is ShopRite, right? And I
Right.
don't know. I don't think you have ShopRite. ShopRite's like a Northeast chain,
I
and
think
Stop and Shop.
ShopRite and Kroger are the same company, are they not?
No, ShopRite's a cooperative.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically they have like independently owned stores, but they
Mm-hmm.
all share a brand and they share access to suppliers and everything. So yeah. Oh, maybe I'll get to say it. So in Stop and Shop, I saw a
Mm-hmm.
sign at the door that says we have a autonomous robot named Marty who goes around and checks for spills and safety and all sorts of stuff. I'm thinking to myself, hmm, that's gonna be real interesting. Cause and lo and behold, we saw it, and this thing was just roaming down the hallways. I'm trying to get
Uh-huh.
on my computer, and it was just basically, going to town. I mean, it didn't run into people, but it had cameras on the side and it had all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of stuff. It had like sensors, and it was rolling around, and apparently it was checking for spills and other stuff. Let me see if I'll show you the thing.
Was it um was it checking for shoplifters too?
Apparently, I was reading something about it, and they're saying that how no, it doesn't actually do anything with security, but it actually where can I find this video? Yeah, it actually just all it does is it monitors for safety. So it's not like so I was thinking they put that for these ice cream lickers because they have people go and they lick ice cream.
Oh
You ever heard
yeah,
of that?
like that person had done at Walmart where they licked the ice cream and put it back.
Uh, yeah. I'm like, what? No. You know? I think it's this one, is it? Let me take a quick look at this one. Yeah, I think it's that one. If it isn't that one, you'll see something else. This grocery store has a robot that monitors for spills and such like that. Marty.
Marty?
Marty. Marty.
Ah.
And Marty's so amazing. So um I kind of went up to Marty and said, "Can I have a QSO and FT8? Because you're a robot after all."
What did Marty say back?
Marty didn't say anything. Marty was like, "You're one of those weird ham radio operators, aren't you?" I'm
You
like,
should have
I'm
been
a
like,
ham celebrity. So anyway, just like you, I saw you were hitting the POTA this week.
oh, I did. I did.
Awesome.
Actually that was actually last week. Yeah, I sure did.
And I see your POTA partners in the chat too.
Oh yes.
Yay, Mike. Okay.
Yes. Mike showed up and was
Mm.
like, so let's go POTA. And I was like, all right, we can go POTA. So there's actually a POTA park not far from my house. It's actually right up the road, like 5 minutes. And then the other one's about 30 minutes away that we went to as well. I don't think it made the video. That was the next day.
Yeah.
But he definitely, we went back to the original park because he wanted to be number one.
Oh, okay.
So he got to be number one, and then we went to another park. And since he's so cold all the time, and to me it felt good, but to him he was like, I'm cold. I'm cold. I'm like, it's nice and it feels good out. What the heck?
Yeah, he's
Anyway.
cold.
So apparently it was too cold for him. So we ended up he ended up setting up the antenna and everything, and he was doing it, and I had some meetings for work. So
Right. So K9KMV, the unlucky ham, asked if the robot's call sign is C3PO. That would be cool, right?
yeah,
Maybe somebody in Andorra should have that.
Yes, I heard that Mike likes to keep his house at 78 degrees at all times.
Yeah. So Mike's from Florida, so it kind of makes sense. But I'm from Trinidad.
That doesn't make any sense to me. 78 degrees all the time. I'm in Alabama. I'm in North Alabama. And how does that does not make any sense to me, Rhea. Please explain.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like my mom lives there, and it's like I've been to Florida so many times. And the thing is, he's in Texas now. Mike is in Texas now, right? So it's like you have, and he says he doesn't like the cold. I'm gonna pin this.
And he says or warmer. So I mean, 78 degrees. Seriously, 78 degrees. That to me is hot. That to me is sweating.
When it gets below 70 degrees in Florida, all the big coats come out. They look like they're Eskimos, okay? So it's like I don't get, but I'm from Trinidad, but here's a really funny thing. There are people in Trinidad who wear big thick winter coats because Diddy had it. Okay? Diddy. I'm like, you're 10 degrees above the freaking equator. I'm like, what?
Well, here's the thing. I keep my house at a normal 72 degrees. That to me, it's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's not going to cause my electric bill to go sky high. It's going to be normal.
Right. So that's a perfect segue into our topic tonight. We're going to do the news, but let me give you a preview of our topic. We're going to talk about when disaster strikes and how to prepare as a ham radio operator. Winter's coming, okay? At least here. And we get some nasty winters. We get ice storms. Not as nasty as some places, but we get ice storms. We get freak snowstorms. Power goes out. It takes down everything. It takes down tree limbs and everything. So we're going to tell you some stuff about how you can be prepared. But first, the news.
All right. So we have a few things in the news, about 5. U.S. and Region 2 Amateur Radio Direction Finding Championships results are in.
Yeah, so have you ever done any direction finding events? It's pretty nice, actually.
No, and nada.
So if you like outdoor events, if you like running outdoors, their direction finding events, what they do is a hidden transmitter hunt, right? They put a hidden transmitter somewhere, and then they, and it's very popular with youth for some reason, for kids. I guess kids like to run around, and you go and you find it.
So is
I've
this
been
like
to so many
fox
of those.
hunting?
It is fox hunting,
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
right? So yeah, it's pretty good. So they have the results, and let's see. So they have the regional championships, U.S. or they're canceled, of course, due to the virus that shall not be named before YouTube tags the video. Um, and then they had who won? Uh, well, two standout youth competitors turned impressive at times adult in the women's category. They have a lot of ladies in this too, so it's pretty good. Um, uh, Adalia Schiff. I'm gonna totally murder her name. Shifrath Craig, 14 years old, of North Carolina. Um, Lisa Fonkin of
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts. Okay, good. It's good. Yeah, it's and I know Gerald Boyd because when we were doing the ARRL ARDF committee, I kind of suggested him, you know, to because he's been reaching out to me. And I kind of mentioned, to the president that we should get him involved, and we got him in charge of that committee. So it was very good, and ARDF is very good. It's time to wrestle that away from Eastern Europe. No offense to Eastern Europe. I love working Russians. Russians always 5'9", but it's time for America to step up. Okay. All right, cool. What's next?
All right, so the 3Y0J DX expedition to Bouvet Island confirms for November of 22 activation.
Yeah. So I believe my friend Kenneth Opskar, LA7GIA, he's involved in that, and that's going
Mm-hmm.
to be awesome. That's going to be pretty awesome. It's I mean, it is a very rare entity. It's the second most rare, only behind North Korea. Okay, so
Yes,
you know, best of luck to them.
most definitely, because they're going to need it.
Yeah.
The WRC-23 Advisory Committee draft positions. So the
Okay.
ARRL has told the FCC they agree with 2 World Radio Communication Conference Advisory Committee draft positions on the WRC-23 agenda items, but with conditions.
Right.
So you probably know a little bit more about this.
Yeah. So let me explain. Okay. So you might not know too much about this, but basically in radio governance, what happens is every few years so let's back up a bit. Radio worldwide, okay, is governed by
Mm-hmm.
the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which is actually an agency of the UN. And I used to work at the UN, by the way. And the
Mm-hmm.
ITU is in Geneva and Switzerland, and they have the World Radio Communication Conference every few years. And they basically decide on agenda items to kind of keep things harmonized. We've gotten a few things out of it. We've in 1979, when it was called the World Administrative Radio Conference, we actually got the WARC bands, which are 160, well, not 160, 12, 17, and 30 meters, right? And we got those bands through the WRC. And there have been a lot of different things. I mean, France was trying to take away 2 meters, but the IARU, and they do a lot of fantastic work, by the way. The IARU um, with um, with Don Beatty, G3BJ, he wrote a magnificent opposition to this, and basically got them to pull their proposal. So the anyway, so that's how it is. So they get together, they decide radio rules, and then these get passed on to the national administrations, and then they
Mm-hmm.
get implemented. So there's some things about a new allocation for Earth exploration satellites. So basically, I think this is like radar that'll kind of like do some sort of measurements of Earth, and they use 40 to 50 megahertz. Yeah, so it's 40 to 50 megahertz, which is close to the 6 meter band. So naturally, amateurs are a little concerned, but um, we support the ARRL and the IARU and others support this with conditions that doesn't interfere with us. So yeah, and then it doesn't constrain us. And the other one is Resolution 657, which covers frequencies from 13 kilohertz through at least 15 gigahertz. So space weather sensors, and oh, is that it? Okay, yeah. So they kind of like wanted. Sorry. Okay. Right. So resolution 657. There's space weather sensors, right? So space weather sensors that measure space weather,
Mm-hmm.
and the U.S. view is that the changes to the radio regulations are outside the agenda of that scope, and the U.S. should support the conducting of the studies, right? But they're a little concerned about the broadness of the scope. So 13 kilohertz through 15 gigahertz is a bit broad. But if it's good for space weather, it's good for us. So we have to support this, but at the same time, make sure that that's narrow and focused. All right. And by the way, Tapper, the organization, they're developing ground-based space weather stations called codename Tangerine, which are pretty interesting. So, and my friend Dr. Nathaniel Frizzell, W2NAF, he is very much involved in that. He used to live around here, actually, but he moved to Scranton, Pennsylvania. All right. What else is in the news?
Well, the BNETZA removed three products from their market. So the German communications regulator has excluded 3 products that do not comply with the European EMC Directive 2014/30/EU from the German market. The translation is basically that these following items just do not. Let's see here.
They don't comply.
They don't comply. Right. Thank you. I think of a word.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was like an LED lighting track spot, a switching power supply, and another LED lighting spotlight.
This is good news, I think, because the regulators are now paying attention to things that'll mess up the radio spectrum. How many times you buy like an LED bulb or something, and you switch it on and it just wipes out HF. It's good that at least the German regulators, and I hope more regulators worldwide, start paying attention to that, because it's a major source of problems for us. It's going to be difficult in the future, where we need clean radio spectrum to continue to operate, and with all the proliferation of electronic devices and such like that. So it's good. It's good. BNetzA is the German regulator, so they're good. All right, what else is going on?
Unfortunately, we actually lost a well-known amateur radio contester in DXer, Will Roberts.
Right.
AA4NC.
Okay. Yeah. He died. He was young. Well, relatively speaking, he was 61 years old. Yes. And he died in an aircraft accident. So that was he used to be with this station W4MR, and he used to have contests. So very very sad news, but I hope everybody stays safe out there. So that's tonight's news, I believe. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about everybody's favorite topic, and I know a lot of people are concerned about this. We're kind of going to go off the script a little bit, and I'm going to talk about, kind of like we're going to talk about being prepared, okay? Now, this isn't serving your community. I actually did a video about emergency communications. I did that as my first Live with Rhea episode. If you look on my channel, you'll see I do Live with Rhea on Sundays, so that's my live show, and I do topics from time to time. But this is about fending for yourself, right? And I'm trying to, Kat tonight is going to learn about something that's near and dear to her heart, because as you know, her dad was a prepper. So Why don't you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what kind of things he used to do that you can tell us?
He had his own garden. So
Hmm.
actually, right now, I'm waiting for the weather. Actually, it's cooler now. To get
Right.
to where I can go outside and actually clean it up so I can actually do it next year, the garden.
Oh, cool.
Um, he prided himself on his tomatoes and his peppers, and he actually
Nice.
has a growing thing downstairs where he took all the seeds and stuff and would grow
Hmm.
them himself. So,
That's amazing because I'm in some of these prepper groups, okay, and some of these
mhm.
preppers, I hate to say, they're not preppers, they're hoarders, okay.
Well, unfortunately, right now, 'cause I don't eat none of this, but I am.
There she goes.
What my kids do, they like pepper sauce. I'm actually hoarding some pepper sauce.
Yeah, it's nothing's wrong with stashing away stuff.
But I don't eat it. I don't eat it. The kids will eat it, but I won't. I
Yeah.
won't eat it. It's not my thing. But all these peppers are what he grew,
Nice.
and he pickled them
Yeah.
by putting vinegar and stuff in them. So yes, and actually, this jar is almost 3 years old.
That's amazing. And I think, you know what? I think it's good that he grows his own stuff. I've been
Um,
in a lot of these prepper groups, and a lot of them are basically just hoarders. So, anyway, what Scott says, I want to know what Dixie DX keeps in her bug out bag.
huh? In her bug out bag, always looking for ideas. Well, unfortunately, I don't have a bug out bag. My
Right.
dad was very much a believer of the bug out, so he has. Um, I've seen it around here.
Hmm.
He's actually got one of them life straws
Oh,
that
good.
filters the water.
Hmm.
I've helped him can green beans. I've helped him can tomatoes that were
Cool.
the green beans came out of his best friend Doc's garden that he grew.
Okay.
He had a farm, so
Wow.
him and Doc were big up on that.
Nice.
So
So, yeah.
that's pretty much what my dad had, and he had some MREs, and he always kept a stockpile of ammunition.
That's good. I keep stockpiles of stuff too. But what are you gonna do? I mean,
I mean, if he went out and shot
Yeah.
guns just to keep them maintained,
Yeah.
he would definitely make sure that he had enough rounds, and if not, he would buy more to restock to make sure he had a certain level of ammunition.
Yeah. I reload too. So reloadings is my way to make sure I have supply. And some of my friends are really hardcore. They do casting. They get lead and they cast their own. They're
So,
hardcore.
someone says I keep my makeup in my bug out bag.
Bug out bag.
Unfortunately, I don't think if I'm bugging out, I need to worry about
Mm,
makeup. However, I do need to worry about my skincare.
that's true.
Skincare is more important than makeup.
Yeah.
The makeup I use is actually good for your skin. And then the blue carousel. No, not necessarily. I would rather keep tequila or Fireball in my bug out bag for alcohol or rum
Yeah.
or some sort of worm, but not blue
Right.
carousel.
Perfect. So the first rule that we
Mhm.
normally say, and this is a good one, Douglas v. Ham Radio and more, says your first rule is your family's fed and safe before you go serve your community. Although we're not talking about serving our community, but you always have to look at your needs first, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and you always make sure that you have your needs taken care of.
Yes.
And mhm,
That became very relevant when back in 2011, we had tornadoes that came through here, and we were at least 5 days in
right.
some areas, a week in other areas, completely without power.
Okay. So what's your plan if power goes?
If power goes,
Yeah.
well, I don't have any solar panels, even though my dad was looking into doing all that. So really and truly,
Okay.
I don't have any backup.
Okay.
So if the power goes,
Yeah.
I'm pretty much screwed at the moment.
Well, it's never too early to prepare. And
No.
as far as power goes, I have a multi-pronged approach to power. I do use generators, that uses fuel. I have two gas, one propane, and one diesel, because I believe that you will need to use what's available. The propane, I think, stores the best, right? And the propane
Yes.
really doesn't go bad.
No,
Diesel,
I
is
have
it?
propane and kerosene. I have propane, and I have kerosene heaters.
Yeah.
So
The gasoline generator is kind of like the oddball, because the gasoline goes bad really quickly, and you have to buy it from a gas station. Diesel's really interesting, but those generators are cheap. Diesel's really interesting because you can use any amount of things. You could use vegetable oil, you could use biodiesel, which you could make. There's a farm up by us that makes biodiesel, and you can make it from all sorts of things. The original vision for the diesel engine was that the farmer, when Rudolf Diesel designed the diesel engine. So, diesel is one of these things. The diesel engine is kind of weird. When Rudolf Diesel designed the engine, he designed an engine that was self sufficient for farmers. And then later on, when petroleum distillation came about, we found that this waste product called that this kind of oil waste product became a useful fuel. So we eventually began getting diesel from fossil fuel, and it became an interesting thing. One thing you can also have is a wood gasifier, where there are all sorts of videos on the internet about making wood gasifiers, where you burn wood, you collect the smoke, you feed that into the carburetor, and you can use that to drive your generator. But anyway, that's just an aside. So we're talking about radio, right? Um, and yeah, a prepper has more than one location. So this is our first important thing.
Mhm.
I see a lot of hams, okay, have like big elaborate home stations. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? And I used to watch Doomsday Prepper on TV. Oh, by the way, alcohol is good. You could make alcohol to use in a gasoline engine. I almost forgot that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So as far as the first thing you want to do, I lost my train of thought there. The first thing you want to do is you always want to be self-sufficient with your station and such. As far as power goes, I have lots of solar power. I have several solar generators and such, and they're good. I also have components to make solar, and I have lots of solar panels too. But as far as radio goes, I see a lot of hams building up big station. I used to watch Doomsday Preppers, and there was this guy who had like a big ham radio station, and he announced to the world, "Yeah, I'm a prepper. I have a ham radio station." I think to myself, what are you gonna do with all that if some bad weather comes through and then blows that big antenna down? I've seen some serious
Not
damage.
sure.
I'll show you. I'll show you one here. Like I mentioned, we have ice storms, right?
Right.
And when the ice comes through, it's not pretty. You know. So
Mm-mm.
I will show you here. Yeah. So this, guys, is what happens when you have an ice storm rip through. Have you ever seen something like this? And this
I
this
think it's similar because we've had ice storms come through here too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've
Mhm.
had my antennas droop like this. Some of them are not so lucky. Some of them break off, and they take down whole towers, especially if guy wires on your towers. So one reason I'm glad you're doing POTA is because being a portable operator helps you greatly in being self-sufficient. So if you have the POTA mindset, and one thing I didn't see in your video was you didn't have like setup or anything. What kind of antennas you guys used?
We used the one of his. I think it's the infed half wave. I think it was the
Okay.
pack tenna. I don't
Okay.
remember.
So he didn't use the auto tune DX Commander.
No, he did not. He did not. Yeah, and fed halfway. Ha! I remembered.
Right. Well, yeah,
Look,
I
this
think
is
some of
all I
the
did.
DX
I just let
commanders
him
are
go
infed.
fish it up in the tree
Hmm.
and go take it around. I just made sure that nothing was in any ant beds because I didn't want any ants on me. That's about it.
Yeah. So what I liked especially yeah, Mike, when you do the DX commander, okay, you gotta say it auto tune, okay? Like DX commander with auto tune. I should get auto tune and do it. I have auto tune, but I can't bring it up right now.
Well, I'm sure he can auto tune something. Because he's got that stupid voice where you make all them like talking about Christopher Walken, talking about Herb the Perb. Oh my god, he makes so many
Yeah.
voices.
There's an app called I Am T Pain. You know, T Pain is the first.
Does it make it sound like does it make you sound like T-Pain?
Yeah.
I should get that app.
I remember that one. And then, T Pain. So you sound like T Pain. If you dial it in the way we sound like Kanye. Okay.
Okay. But question, can you use this when you call people? Because if you can't use it when you're calling people, there's no sense in it being on your phone.
I don't know if that's gonna break break FCC rules or something because they said no music, but I'll try it just for once. If I get the FCC on my back, it'll be worth it.
I'm not going to do anything. I'm not telling you to do anything. Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness. Somebody's telling us that
So
raw honey never spoils. We know this.
that's true.
That is true.
So
And it can also
yeah.
be used as an antiseptic just as well as vodka or any high proof alcohol.
Right. So the first thing, like I said, I really like that you got on the POTA, and I've done portable expeditions and stuff like that, and even I was in my dad's house in Trinidad, and actually went back there, and I didn't bring a lot of stuff, and I just set up, and it was portable easily from local materials. So the important thing is that you need to be prepared to set up a station from scratch, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are a few things, essential skills that you need to learn. So first of all, you need to bring out the little MacGyver in all of us, right? Meaning
Yeah.
that you need to be able to improvise. A lot of people think their radio prep plan is to go and buy a box of Baofangs, 20 in a case, for $300, and bam, and they toss that in a Faraday cage and expect it to work when Armageddon happens, and then they
Mm-hmm.
realize that it only goes half mile down the road. So the
That's
ability to
true.
build. Go ahead.
I said no. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
The ability
yeah.
the ability to build a working station with limited resources. The
Yes.
scouts. The scouts actually learn this in their radio merit badge. One of the tasks, I believe, in the radio merit badge and also the Girl Scouts patch is to build a radio receiver, not necessarily a transmitter, but you learn to build one from scratch. Although I don't think a lot of hams, need to necessarily learn to build a complete radio set because that's kind of hard these days. But you should be able to know how to get on the air with limited resources. Maybe you have an old radio that you need to figure out how to blow the dust off and get it working again. Um, you need some technical knowledge, but you don't need to be an engineer. You can learn as you go along, right? You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
be, hyper technical. Just know the basics. I had a book that actually taught me like all the basics of radio, and I learned. This was not a ham radio book, by the way. This was just a book that taught you about various electronic things. The other thing is once you understand the basics of radio, you make the most effective use of your radios, the tools,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can understand things like propagation, things like interference, right? These are not concepts in isolation. These are things that come together and you get a deeper understanding when you learn the fundamentals. you also understand how to operate with limited resources, which is also something you learn about in POTA. How did you guys power your POTA?
We were using, I believe he had it hooked up to Big Geek. So
To what?
his Big Geek, his Big Geek box. He's got a Big Geek and a little Geek, and he had it.
Oh, you mean like a little portable battery?
Yes, that's what he had it hooked up to.
Okay. Is that like a
I don't remember
homemade
what he
thing?
has in it, so I don't want to sit here and say no. He built it himself. This is the one that he built these.
Yeah. Okay.
They're pretty awesome
Hey,
little boxes.
I see Josh say topic on prepping. I'm in. Okay. Yeah. Josh Josh has a lot of survival and he does a lot of survival collaborations and such like that. So it's nice to have him on board. Yeah, the battery boxes.
Yeah, the battery box. See?
Yeah. So
I'll come around to the terminology sooner or later. It does not take me a while to get there, though.
Right. Yeah. The biggest thing about Little Geek and Little Geek with a Red Likes, Mike never showed this. Okay, Mike, you need to show that in a video.
What, his LED light?
Yeah.
If he ever comes back down to Alabama, I might just let him go POTA at night. That'd be fun.
Okay. Yeah. Well, lumen. So POTA has really been like a boon for radio operators. It's helped them practice all of their field operations, right?
Mhm.
So remember what I said. You have the antenna. You put up the end fed half wave in a tree, right? Because if a disaster strikes, you're probably not going to have your home antennas, or your home antennas might malfunction. And you learn to operate with limited power. And you not only, like I mentioned, the difference between a prepper, a true prepper, and a hoarder is that a prepper knows how to improvise and how to make the most of limited resources, whereas a hoarder just stockpiles everything in sight and then expects that'll keep them through, and then nothing goes bad, and that they're just going to be able to stockpile their way out of a disaster, which is never true. So, okay, so you have your batteries, and what new things did you learn on the radio apart from how to operate? Did you learn about what kind of power and stuff to use, or and such?
Pretty much, we were running 100 watts. But what he
Okay.
was showing me was like the line, the carrier line, and
Right.
when you're over this way or over that way, and how you want to get there. So basically, how like it carries over, but you don't want to go you want to make sure that's within a certain range, because if you go over that range, then you're being an a-hole, and that's not proper amateur radio practice.
Okay.
Because he taught me a lot about these a-holes and proper radio practice, and he went toe to toe with stuff.
Mm-hmm. So an important
our frequency quite often, and they were just carrying on a conversation, and the guy was like, "I don't care," da 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 da, and yeah, oh my god, it was definitely learning because, yeah.
Okay. So an important thing you probably learned was that bandwidth matters, right? So you can operate wide and you can waste a lot of power and not get far, or you can operate a little narrow and get a little further. So these are all things you have to learn.
Yes.
Not only when you're operating phone, but also when you're operating data modes, especially. You'll find some modes like JS8 call will get through a lot better. They're a lot narrower. And then you'll have modes such as PSK31 and such like that, which could do keyboard to keyboard message. Although PSK is not really that popular these days. And even Morse code. I know a lot of people, they don't have to learn Morse code now, and that's fine, But I think as a tool, learning Morse code allows several different things. One of them, it allows you to operate a very efficient narrowband mode, right, which can get you much further distance. For example, grid down. Two, it allows you to operate with less power. So one thing I learned early on when I lived in an apartment was that my furthest contacts were always on Morse code or one of the weak signal modes. I don't think WSJT was a thing back then. And the third thing I learned is that I could use very simple equipment. Okay, so there are a number of different ways to learn Morse code. There is Learn CW Online, lcwo.net. There's also Long Island CW Club. They're pretty great. They have classes for Morse code. And then there's CW Academy from CW Ops. They all have different styles, but they're pretty good to learn with. Even if that's not your thing, no problem. You have your computer. You could have low power computer. I know Josh had a lot of different videos on these. I think he has like a little low power mini laptop kind of thing that
Yes.
draws low power. So that'll make the most of your power, even if you're running solar. Because remember, I discovered something when I run my computer at home. In terms of watts, do you wanna tell me how much watts my computer at home will draw?
No idea.
Okay, even sitting idle, it draws like 150 to 200 watts. Okay, I discovered quickly that running that on a battery would deplete my battery in less than a day. Okay, and even if though I now have a lot of big batteries at home powering my entire house, that's not the most efficient use of my resources. So smaller computers, lower power computers for digital messaging are good. Being able to use your smartphone is good too, and your tablets, iPads, etc. So there's a lot of good resources for that. Let's see here. A clapped out tough book, whoops, is good too. Yes, the tough books are nice, and you can get them. You can get them used pretty cheap, or you can you could get them from here to there. Um, oh yeah, thanks Josh. It's the GPD Pocket 2. It's pretty good. Yeah. A good channel that has a lot of this information is OH8STN. Julian has a lot of info about low power operating.
Yes,
And
I've seen his stuff.
yeah, you can learn a lot from him. It's pretty good. So that's making the most of your thing. Now, okay, and the ability to adapt. Did I cover that? Okay. So here's one consideration that you have. Is everybody in your family licensed?
No.
Okay. And you are the only one.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm the only one.
Right.
They're
So
just talking
when it
about
comes
that too.
when it comes time for disaster prep, either you get everybody licensed, okay?
Okay.
Or you use an unlicensed or other radio service that doesn't require to take a test. And a lot of preppers tell me that, the government isn't going to be around to enforce the license when SHTF. I'll tell you why that's not a very good route to take, because one, the government wouldn't be around to enforce my driving license either. But if I don't get in and drive, how will I know how to drive? You know. So with the radio license, and I've been telling local people, in groups here, that I help out, and there's like local people here. Won't go into too much details for OPSEC reasons, but they kind of, they're like, yeah, I'll just stay on license and I'll buy the radios and we'll program them on a secret channel and we'll get this. I say it doesn't work that way. You get the ham license, or you get a GMRS license, right? And you practice, okay? The POTA is, like I said, is good practice, but even just like getting on the local repeaters or doing simplex communications, contesting is a good way to get around. In Trinidad, we had an attitude of complacency where people would kind of just like hang out on the local repeaters, and they would never ever switch to a simplex channel. And we told them, I said, what happens if a hurricane comes through here and blows down the repeaters? What are you going to do? So I think the best thing generally is to practice simplex capability, and this will mean enhancing your antennas, enhancing your operator skill, because it takes more than just radios and antennas. You have to be skilled. Sometimes you might be listening for a weak signal, right? And you have to know how to pick that out. And you practice with that. If you set up WinLink, right, like Josh mentioned here, you get WinLink and Vara. Vara actually, so WinLink, when I started out in WinLink in like 1998, we had to get a $400, I think it costs more now, SCS modem. It was, I think you could use Douglas V ham radio more. I believe there's a Linux Vara, if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't seen one for Mac. I mostly live in the Mac world. But back in those days, we had the expensive SCS PTC2 modem. And, today a lot of the boaters still use that. But now WinLink has become just so accessible with Vara and all these sound card modes. And the really cool thing is that most modern radios today, right, most modern HF radios come with the sound card interface built in. So what does that mean, right? If you have something like your dream radio, Cat, the ICOM 7300, right? I know you want to get one. That has a hey, when you upgrade to general, I'm sure you get one, right?
Yes, and matter of fact, I have a radio here I can play with on its desk when I get my general, or
Right.
before I get my general.
Okay.
Somebody left it behind.
Yeah. I believe there used to be, yeah, and the good thing about these modern radios, like I said, is just one USB cable, or in the case of a Flex, you have an Ethernet cable. But you basically just have one cable to rule them all. You have a sound card devices on your computer, and you're able to get, back in like when I started playing with sound card modes, I had to hook up like 5 or 6 different cables. I had the one for the push to talk, the sound card audio, a bunch of things. Today is just one USB cable, and I really like that radio manufacturers are including this as a standard feature. Some radios go even further. Some of them have it surfaced via Bluetooth, like the ICOM 705, I believe, does it via Wi-Fi as well too, using the RSBA1 software. So you can actually have a wireless connection between your radio and your computer. So that's pretty cool. And by the way, there are WinLink Vara has Linux and Mac. So if you're a Linux or a Mac and you just don't like to use Windows, you know, and AJK, yeah, the license isn't going to mean anything but society collapses, but you're not going to have time to prepare and practice when society breaks down. That's why you have to practice and prepare now. Okay. Yep, 705 can do Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. That's cool. Yeah, I have mine. I have the software and everything, and I've been setting it up, so it's pretty cool. All right. Okay. What else would you like to know? What bands would you use? And you said you're getting your general, right?
Yes, I'm getting my general.
Okay. Oh yeah, but first let's finish up with this topic of unlicensed people. Okay. So what do you do with unlicensed people? So generally, if you're dealing with unlicensed people, you're not going to have them as your communicating long distance communications with people in other places. You're probably going to have them doing short distance stuff. So for them, keeping around some of these GMRS radios, even without a license too. And the cool thing about GMRS, as I mentioned, is that one license covers your whole family. Okay? So you don't even need to get like a license for everybody. You get one license and you get a bunch of radios and you practice with that. So that could be a pretty cheap and effective way for unlicensed people to practice VHF communications. But getting the amateur license also exposes you to a lot more radio practice and a lot more skills that you'll learn. So okay, I thought I had to answer that message. All right, so right, so what bands do you think you'll be using in a complete disaster grid down scenario?
Simplex would be one.
Okay, what about like HF, VHF, UHF?
I'm not sure. Probably 40 meters. 20
Okay.
meters.
All right. Remember we did a whole episode on propagation?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. And this is a good thing to know. You generally have to know your bands. And I find that 40 meters is good for daytime propagation for short distances. 20 meters is good for long haul, right? 80
Mm-hmm.
meters is good for local and long distance at night. So generally, you want to practice and on different bands and learn their propagation characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Propagation is a thing that while the physical characteristics remain the same wherever you are, the actual places you can connect to are kind of different where you are. So for example, if you're in the south, you might not have the same places you could reach, easily as someone like me up in the northeast or someone out west, right?
Right.
So you kind of have to figure that out. And that's a big reason you want to get the license. Because if you're building your network of people, you want to have regular communications exercises with them, or maybe just learning to who you can talk to, and you have your trusted contacts and such. And also how different modes work, like the digital modes and such. What else? So another good thing I like to say here is that there's no substitute for practice, but if you read books, you get a good point to start off with, and then you could proceed from there. All right. Let's see if there's any other questions here.
Um,
In the movies, when the aliens attack, the humans always use. Yeah, kind of. Except in Die Hard. No, Die Hard wasn't about aliens, was it? No. Die
mhm.
Hard. Yeah.
Yeah, Die Hard didn't have that. Um, Speaking of aliens,
Yeah.
what movie did Will Smith star in where he punched an alien?
Man in Black.
Wrong.
Okay. Which one is that?
Independence Day.
Oh yeah, he was in that too. Damn.
Everybody thinks Men in Black.
Oh my god. You want to know something? I'm gonna do when I get some merch done. I'm gonna send
Yeah.
out to these guys who get this trivia right before I do. I do. I do.
That was
I've been meaning to.
yes, because I
Yeah.
think he told them he punched him in the face and then told him welcome to Earth.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I now remember that. Yeah.
Yes, but everybody thinks it's Men in Black. But he was in Independence Day before Men in Black ever came out.
Mhm.
That was back when he was young Will Smith.
Right. Yeah. So another thing with regard to communications, I see Josh has been doing a lot of stuff with the LoRa devices. I really enjoyed those videos, Josh. Keep them up.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in getting some of those myself to play with. So it's pretty good stuff. So LoRa basically is an unlicensed radio communications using a mesh network, I believe it is.
Yes,
So
it's mesh. I looked it up.
yeah, pretty
It's a
good
mesh
stuff.
network.
Yeah. Each band has its pros and cons. Yep. And I find that even on VHF and UHF, you'll find that, and one of the videos I did was which is better, VHF or UHF. And I find VHF is better for when you want moderately long haul for VHF anyway, out in like an area where you don't have a lot of buildings, whereas UHF tends to be better for urban environments where you want to penetrate buildings and windows. In between that, you have high VHF, which is the 1.25 meter band, 222 to 225 megahertz. And I found an interesting tidbit about that. Since there's not a lot of activity near to it, the noise on that band is actually a lot lower, and it's a lot less crowded due to other due to not a lot of people having equipment for it. So it's a good choice for communications, especially if you want to stay discreet a little bit on amateur radio.
Yeah, and he said
right?
that Laura is encrypted, and I read that too.
Okay. And Laura's encrypted, and that's another good point. Sometimes amateur radio might not be viable for OPSEC reasons, right?
Hmm.
So, sometimes you don't want to reveal the data you're sending. You
Or
can't send them.
where you're at, because if you are,
Well, that's
depends,
kind of hard to do. Yeah.
depends.
Yeah.
You don't want none of them people from The Walking Dead to come raid you.
Right. Yeah.
That was my dad's favorite show, by the way, is The Walking Dead.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes, and he even signed up for their box of
Mm,
stuff, of goodies, their goodie box.
nice.
Yes.
So Mel says there's a movie where I think it was called Blackout, and there were two ham operators. One was a prepper. It was a really good movie. You know what other show I enjoyed? Jericho. And Jericho is amazing. I did not send Nina Tastar any peanuts, okay, from CBS. But I was really disappointed when the show got canceled. At the beginning, they had a message in Morse code, and they had a guy who was a ham radio operator there, and he was sending secret messages. It's kind of interesting. I really think it's actually, I wouldn't lie. It's kind of a toss up between Jericho and Last Man Standing in terms of shows I enjoyed that featured amateur radio. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still mad. I'm still mad. Nuts. I think wasn't there like a few wrap up episodes?
Girl,
You know?
there are so many shows that's gotten canceled I'm mad about. But it's okay, because that just meant that I have a few less shows to watch and 20 still to watch.
So is John Amadeo, AA6J, the producer of Last Man Standing, executive producer, I believe. He was saying, a lot of times shows just, they've run their course. They're just done. There's nothing else to write about, and maybe some shows just they don't have budget anymore, or they kind of like the network wants to try something new. So a lot of shows get in the chopping block for that reason.
Well,
Yeah.
I used to watch NCIS New Orleans, and it
Mm.
wasn't long after Lucas Black characters got.
Mm-hmm.
I think he died. I don't remember. He either died or he left. I think he died. I'm not for sure. But anyway, after he left, the show didn't go on much longer after that.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
and then they ended. The way they ended it was really nice. And then Criminal Minds the same way.
Oh, I
Once
love Criminal Minds.
yes, once Shamar left
Yeah.
the show, and it was pretty much after that. It wasn't maybe one more season or two more seasons, and it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a big part of that, and he left Criminal Minds to do SWAT. So he took off and started prepping for SWAT. Because if you notice, his character from Derek to SWAT
Yeah.
changed. So
Hmm. Yeah. There's so many shows with ham radio. Yeah, Walking Dead, like
mhm.
Josh mentioned, and Ron Walensky and 8WCR during the commercial break they spell out Jericho in Morse code. What show was that? And
No
then they
show.
had well, Jericho on Paramount Plus. So Jericho was interesting. Like I said, they had a Morse code message at the beginning of every show,
Mhm.
and of course I know since I'm a ham, I know well. Since I'm a ham who knows Morse code, I was able to decode the message and see it. Say, yeah, they did the Morse during the break, but at the beginning of the show, they actually spelled out a message in Morse code. So, yeah. All right, yeah. Walking Down later seasons have 3 episodes. Okay, pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't ever finish watching The Walking Dead. I
Yeah.
kind of like got burnt out on it, I guess, a little
Okay.
bit.
Right. Okay. So I guess it's coming on 10:30 here,
Yeah.
9:30 Central. If anybody has, I don't know if anybody, I mean, there's a British TV science show called Inspector Morse. Okay. You're an appliance operator. There is really nothing wrong with being an appliance operator. I think that, I don't like to define how people do their hobby. At the same time, I tell people if you really want to get the most out of ham radio, you want to learn stuff, and you could learn operating commercial gear, you could learn properly using commercial gear, but you have to keep learning. Otherwise, I don't know. This hobby is all about learning. It's all about exploring new things, and amateur radio is pretty vast and big. So I always
Yeah.
encourage everybody to learn. Watch the live streams. Watch these live streams. I always, we always try to keep people learning. So yeah. All right. So we're gonna adopt this ham radio says gonna tie the ribbons on it, and we're gonna
We got
say
tie ribbons on it.
have if I had a dime for every time I heard that on the air, I would be richer than Elon Musk right now. Okay?
He's probably gonna be the first trillionaire.
Yeah. 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 I think I think he is, but I think that's stock values on paper. That's the value of the stock on paper because the value of the stock just went straight up. You know.
Oh, it did?
Oh
Shoot,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when did
Since
that happen? I haven't been looking because ever since um the cryptocurrency Doge took a after Saturday night
I
because they were like, oh my God, once it comes on and he talks about it, it's gonna go through the roof.
to the
Yep.
moon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
right
about
now it has me in the negative, babe. It has me in the negative.
ouch.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that I've been a Tesla shareholder for a while now, but I don't think I'm touching it because I think it's going to go higher. This is not
But
investment
you know what?
advice.
I'm just sitting around because eventually,
Yeah.
it might end up going up. And if it does, I'll sell off.
Yeah. So Mel KC2 FKW, the movie Frequency was a good movie.
That was a good
The only
movie.
problem the only problem was they had a technical inaccuracy like all of these movies, and especially these movies with radio, electronics, computers, and hacking especially, okay? Um my gosh, it drives me nuts when some of these shows show hacking. Like it doesn't work that way. The Matrix, right? The Matrix, I think it was a Matrix Reloaded, was a breath of fresh air because it had an actual portrayal of how hacking is properly done. They use a program called a port scanner, and they use an actual port scanning software, and then they use a client to get in called SSH. So yeah, frequencies problem was that they use a receiver, and this guy was talking to his dad on a receiver. So a receiver is supposed to receive, doesn't transmit. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Yeah. Um, let's see. Hertz. Yes, Hertz and Enterprise have ordered a lot of Teslas, which is why the stock has gone up. That's a big reason. All right. I could throw away money. Yeah. I can't do too many, day trading or anything. I have restrictions. I can't, I'm restricted in what I could trade for various
Oh,
reasons.
yeah. Tesla definitely skyrocketed 437%.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, when I don't key the mic, I don't know what happened. I don't know how. Yeah, I think a lot of people, and that's another thing. A lot of people just grab the mic and they talk. They don't push the talk button. No, actually, they use a Heath kit. They use a Heath kit receiver. So it was a real radio. It was just not. It was just not a transceiver. It was a receiver. See? Yeah. No. There's a lot of them. They buy these. They have like these prop masters scouting for props or whatever. They're in like a lot of fake radios. They might buy like some old military surplus thing. But they look specifically probably for amateur radios, and they probably found this receiver. I'll tell you what kind of radio. So frequencies from 2000, right? My friend David Levine, K2DSL, he's local. He said there's a lot of ham radio in it. A few things not so real was that they often talk without pressing the PTT button. And the radio they used was a Heathkit SB301. I should share this really, which is only a receiver. So yeah, I think a lot of thing about Hollywood, right? Let's see here, frequency, yeah. So yeah, K2DSL, David Levine, good guy. He lives in Bergen County, New Jersey. And he said, maybe I'm the last actual licensed ham radio operator to watch the movie Frequency, but I did so this morning. I was playing around searching the TV guide and this past week and searched for ham radio, and it showed this movie, so I recorded it. My wife says we've seen it, but I wasn't a licensed ham yet. I didn't remember, so I watched it again. There's a lot of ham radio in it. A few things not so real. I think some misspelling. Other than the entire plot. So the entire plot of the movie, spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert, was that this guy was talking to his dad who had died on a ham radio. They often talk without pressing the PTT button. And of course, the son wasn't licensed. Oh, that's not really a big deal, I mean, being unlicensed doesn't prevent you from operating a radio. The radio is a Heathkit SB301, which is only a receiver. The SB401 is a transmitter. He would need both. So, like back in the day, you had separate transmitter and receiver. And the dad was W2QYV, the Niagara Radio Club in New York State. I'm thinking that's no accident. I think they probably took that call sign for their own use. So, all right. Okay. Yeah, that's just an interesting tidbit. What else? Yeah, they use gibberish CW. So Kat, have you ever seen any movies and stuff with like Morse code in them?
Yes, but I forgot which ones they were. It's been a while.
Okay. Yeah, there are actually hidden messages in Morse code in some TV shows and movies. Not only Jericho, but like others. And a lot of things are hidden in Morse code. So yes, some of them do gibberish, but a lot of them have real messages. And when you're a ham and you know Morse code, you actually pick these out. So let's see what else. Okay. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna get out of here too. I see some people dropping off.
Yeah, because it's getting like late.
Thank you for joining the show. Next week will be on my channel on Rhea Shack Ham Radio. Be sure to like and subscribe to both of our channels. Right?
Yes. Hit that notification bell on both channels. Otherwise, you're gonna miss my stuff and her stuff, and we have awesome stuff.
I'm going to be live on Sunday, live with Rhea. I usually present a technical topic. I have one in mind for this week. Unfortunately, I got a little messed up because I had to head to Florida, but we're going to be talking about something interesting. And I post videos from time to time. I appreciate all the support. We're gaining subscribers pretty quickly and views and such like that. So it's really nice to have all the support. Okay. All right. 73.
All right. Everybody. 73, guys. Thank you.